The Big Mac went from 50 cents to $8 and lost 40% of its size from 1980 to 2024. And this comes with a picture showing the original gigantic Big Mac next to the tiny petite modern one. This was submitted to Reddit with the caption, "Everything was better, not just the burgers," back in 1980. I don't get this. My world is full of memes like this, and I don't get it. It's like if I woke up tomorrow and everybody was making jokes about how the earth is flat. Because if you did notice by looking, this is completely fake. It's a hoax. Like, where would they get the 1980 version of the burger? That photo is from when they did a promotion in 2017 where they released a grand Big Mac that was much, much bigger, and they were showing it next to an existing one, which, by the way, has always been the same size. What I don't get is, I fully understand pointing out problems we have in society. I fully acknowledge that society is full of problems. I can think of 3 or 4 right off the top of my head. What I do not understand is this impulse from people across the political spectrum to say, if only we could get back to the wonderful past when everything was better and cheaper. For example, this meme hits Reddit about once a month saying, "The Simpsons own this home on a single salary from a husband who didn't even go to college. This was considered normal in 1989 when the show began." That submission had 75,000 upvotes. And this was submitted to a leftist subreddit, an anti-capitalism subreddit, but they're talking about the glorious year of 1989, as in the tail end of the Reagan era. And this is a big reason why I don't like talking about politics on here, because I can't tell what people are talking about anymore. Because you would think if you were opposing the side with the red hats, the side that's saying, let's go back to the way things used to be, that you would say the opposite, that, hey, they are remembering a past that never existed. And that these things are measurable. You can measure how many people were living in poverty in the 70s or 80s or whatever era they consider the glory years. We can measure the fact that houses back in the Simpsons era were much, much smaller than the ones we have now by about 1,000 square feet. That the average person has as much living space now as entire families used to have in the past. And to claim that restaurant portion sizes of all things is a negative downward trend is bizarre. A normal sized meal back then would be something you'd get off of the child's menu now. Back then, if you asked for a 32-ounce soda, they would laugh in your face and ask if it was for your horse. So if you say to me, yes, of course everybody is miserable now. After all, this is the era of tiny fast food portion sizes. I don't even know what you're talking about. We're not speaking the same language. Nostalgia is a cancer. It always takes you to a dark, hateful place. I've said this before because the second thought is always, well, who do we blame for this? Crime was worse back then. The variety of food that was available to the average person was worse back then. Bigotry and hate crimes were worse and more numerous. The ability to communicate was worse. The ability to travel was worse and more expensive. Access to education and information was exponentially worse. Lifestyle and career options for women or marginalized people was much worse. And worldwide poverty and starvation in third world countries was exponentially worse back then. To be absolutely clear, the state of the world now, today in 2024, is unacceptable when compared to the ideal of where we know we can get to. When compared to the world of 1980, it is a miracle. And if you do want to live in a world with a much bigger Big Mac, you do not want to make it taller, you want to make it wider so that it still fits in your mouth.